Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after close on Wednesday, March 31st. Wanted to take a look at some stocks that I either have positions in or am looking to get into and talk about my trading plan in hopefully solid detail. Just to give you some thoughts and ideas to think about as you create your own trading plan. So before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's jump into it. So Space, I recently closed a position on Space. So I'm looking for a new opportunity. And that was basically when it left this old channel. I think we need to zoom out a bit on the 30. Yeah, basically when it left this old channel, which on the 30-minute it's now back into, but it had popped itself out here. And obviously had a pretty hard time holding, though it relatively quickly got back into it. But anyway, I thought there might be a better opportunity presenting itself. And so what I'm going to be looking for from Space is obviously there's a ton of topping out happening recently at that 30.75 mark, so that's going to be a tough one for it. But it is forming the beginnings of a mini channel on the 1 minute here. It looks like anyway. Let me see. Yeah, this is definitely going to qualify. So, I'm going to be watching this new purple channel to sort of see if this holds us into tomorrow's open. And if it does, then I'm going to look to dip buy. Similarly, like you see here, I'm going to look to dip buy at the bottom of the channel as long as it's holding the channel. And then I'll look to take profit toward the top of the channel. And that should give us sort of a good reliable pattern to count on. A lot of these things sort of really take shape in the pre-market, so we'll sort of have to see what's happening at that point. But this is what I'm going to be looking for as we go into the day. If we do get support on that 30.75 mark, then even if we've fallen out of the channel, but if we get support there, then I'll be looking to take a dip buy at the 30.75 mark once it shows a bounce and look to initially ride it up to that 31.34. I know that these seem like very small amounts in dollars, but it's primarily because a lot of these I'm trading options on, at least for these like daily positions. So, that would change the dollar amount, the profit amount on the option quite a bit. So that's what I'm looking for in the very, very near term in Space. I'm literally talking about like intraday kind of trading here, or maybe like holding it for a couple of days, but nothing super long on the ones that we're talking about today. Mara has had some really great pushes lately. It's gotten itself into the upper price targets that we had set before, and you see it still is really respecting them and kind of reacting off of those prices. So I think sort of what's happening here is, it was in this channel here. It was following up this trend line here, say. It's a little bit of a tricky one, but we can just say that it started here. So it was in this channel and now has fallen out pretty confidently has fallen out of that channel. Like I don't think it's bound to retake that channel. But what I'll be looking for is some potential dip buy zones here and here. Just keep in mind Mara tends to have really big ups and downs. So yes, it will have some slower days, but when it moves, it really moves. So these would be my sort of initial dip buy zones to look for taking a position in Mara tomorrow. And hopefully if it gets, if it bounces off of any of these, it would start to form a nice channel for us to play. The other thing that could kind of be forming here that maybe it will walk itself up, but I kind of doubt it, is, a very slight upward trend here. Maybe that will kind of hold as we extend into the pre-market. We'll just kind of have to see. But this, there's nothing really indicating that would be a strong hold, but it's just when it does this sort of movement, it's really hard to say that this is a reliable bounce zone just because it traces back to this previous one, just because it got there in such a weird way, versus kind of very obviously walking up that orange trend line. That's more like what you'd want to see. But we could start to gain confidence in it if we see the price action come down and test it and bounce off, and come down and test it and bounce off, and then it will just be starting to form a channel as long as it's making some higher highs along the way. But that's what I'm looking for Mara. I trimmed out a position today as it had like this big run up. I think I sold half of my positions. I'm still holding half, so that gives me some opportunity to maybe take a shorter term options trade on it, or or maybe grab some additional shares. But these 47.41, 47.03, 46.65 would be my initial potential dip buy bounce zones that I'd be looking at. And then if it does fall through, I'd still be looking at that 44.23 as that was holding up, as was the 43.22 as it made its big run today. So it could very well fall back to those areas that would present additional buy zones. So just look for it to show some price strength when it hits those buy zones before you just jump in feet first, in my opinion anyway. All right, JMIA, has left this previous channel. We were looking at a flagging out pattern, but it just got pushed down even harder, so it sort of is caught in even more of a downtrend here. And it's got a lot of topping out going in this area. That's obviously not helping it be able to get sort of any price strength going. But these would still be my dip buy price zones, 31.89 and 34.36. So if it dips down to that 34.36 tomorrow, I would look to see if it's holding it as support. I would kind of expect it to, just because it's established pretty well off of that today. So that would be my initial target. That would be my hopeful target for JMIA to get an entry point there. And then it's gonna be pretty tricky for it to get past this 36.80, say, and establish support there. But that's the next thing that I'd be looking for to sort of give me strong confidence in the position. At this point, I think we can just get rid of these since it's broken those anyway. And yeah, ideally it gets itself forming an upward channel tomorrow, because that'll give us the most reliable information to trade off of. But right now, these are my dip buy zones that I'm going to be looking for, and this is going to be a tricky one, so just be careful if you pick up shares in this area. You may want to consider that this could be a good take profit zone, depending on what the price is doing when it gets there. Or at least that's the way I'm going to be looking at it. CCIV has broken out of its downtrend, but sort of continued to hug it, and now potentially is pushing off and trying to make a little bit of a break for it. So what I'm going to be looking for is this to sort of form itself into a channel as we get into the day tomorrow. This would be kind of the best case scenario here, walking itself up this channel. So again, I would take a dip buy anywhere toward the bottom of the channel, and then a take profit anywhere toward the top of the channel. That's going to be my most not my most reliable, but my most ideal enter trade scenario. Be careful of all the topping out there. That basically puts you in the low to mid 23s. There seems to be a lot of selling pressure there, so just be cautious as it approaches that zone. But if it sticks in this channel, then it's going to establish a bunch of options upward. So my ideal take profit would be just at the top of the channel at any point. And my ideal buy would be at the bottom of the channel at any point. But, if it hits any of these price targets, in the 23s, those would be pretty solid zones to either take a dip buy if it's coming down to that area, or a take profit if it's rising up into that area. So I know that's just a small move, but this is just the beginnings of a very small channel for now. So we'll sort of see how it's playing out in the pre-market. obviously, if it can get back into the 24s tomorrow, that would be ideal. And, if it holds this channel, it would kind of place it there at open, actually. So I don't know if it's going to have that big of a pre-market. So we might see that this channel flattens out quite a bit. Like maybe it'll actually present something like this, and still open up in the 23s and just have a more, or let's say a less steep channel upward. But bouncing off of our zones nicely, if you had caught that dip buy at that 2108 that we had charted, you would actually be feeling pretty good because it's also seeming to hold this 2296 relatively well. All right, so those are my buy and or take profit zones at the moment. Again, for very short-term trading opportunities, and that's what I'll be doing. So I wish you all the best of luck tomorrow with whatever you're trading, and I will see you all in the next video.